Okay, appreciate that. And just wanted to say thank you everybody for having me here. I'm a big fan of all of your work that I've seen through the club's Instagram so far. So yeah, thanks again for having me. There's a lot that goes into social media nowadays. And I think Instagram is probably one of my favorite social media outlets because it really is about creating something fun and a picture or a video or something like that. So we'll talk about a little bit of that and kind of some questions that have arisen to me over the years with it. Um, and then ultimately, I do want us to just kind of have a question and answer session towards the end here. I think that there's a lot of kind of mystery out there as far as social media goes for some. So I'm definitely here to kind of illuminate on a little bit of that. So first off, I just wanted to kind of open the floor to anybody who is willing to share. What, if anything, do we know about Instagram currently? And it's okay if you don't know much.
I didn't know much until
Yes,
you started
John
talking
Mark
to me about it.
DeSorbio.
Yes, John Mark DeSoria. But I also, with Josh's help, started the Camera Club's Instagram. What do you call it? Instagram page? Uh,
Yeah. And yeah, that's a good question. It ultimately, yes, it is a page. I mean, a lot of people call it different things, but yeah, I would just say, yeah, it's your Instagram page. There's a lot of different types of Instagram pages. You can have a personal page, you can have a professional page and things like that. But ultimately, just in talking about what Instagram is, it's a platform that you can use to show the world your amazing photography, among other things. I personally use it for my band to promote our band. We do media on there, we make show announcements. There's ways that you can link events, things of that nature. So there's a lot of ways you can use Instagram. But primarily it's just to get content out there, whether it be videos or photos and what have you. It is a free platform, so you don't necessarily need to spend money or anything like that to get it going. Like most social media stuff nowadays, it just requires you to sign up with an email address. It's pretty simple when you get down to it as far as starting your own. As I mentioned, there's really two forms of Instagram. There's personal, and then there's commercial or business. So people have actually been able to use Instagram to sell products as well. You can have little online stores that link to it and all that fun stuff, but you can really get into the weeds with that. I think as far as just kind of an introduction to it, that's for a later date. But yeah, so what I want to do here real quick is ultimately, I want to just kind of give everybody a brief little tour of Instagram. Let's see here. Hold on one second. So there's two ways that you can access Instagram. One is through the website. One is through your smartphone as an app. Basically, there's different layouts for each. So as you look at Instagram online, it looks a little bit different than on the mobile app on your phone. Now, it's intended to be a mobile app, but you can still use the website. So that's what I'm going to kind of show today, which my apologies, my computer is giving me a little bit of grief in sharing my screen here. And it looks like I actually have to just restart my Zoom. So bear with me. You can make fun of the tech nerd not being fully tech prepared while I return. I'll be back in 2 seconds. I just have to restart my Zoom. and we'll continue with the Instagram tour here.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, it never happens to us.
Never, never. I will be right back.
See that you do. Otherwise, we'll all be sitting here.
You'll just be sitting here waiting. All right.
What was that last time, Tom, where we had a speaker and totally lost him for the whole
Oh,
night?
yeah.
Totally gone.
We all got online. We chit chatted for a half an hour. He gave us an orientation, and then he shared his screen and went away.
Yep.
Never
That
got it back. We had to schedule the meeting for the following Wednesday. But ultimately, he got on and gave us a really good presentation. That was on light painting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Light painting.
It was
That's
really
cool.
interesting. Yeah.
It was very cool.
All right, Josh, you're back. Are you ready?
I am
Yes.
back. Thank
Yes,
you for your
please.
patience.
Go for it.
All right. So let's take a look at Instagram. Now, this is the website. So it's going to look a little bit different when you're on your phone, but the concept is the same. So you're seeing right now, this is my Instagram account. So this is me up in the upper right-hand corner, which I can click on, and we actually see my profile. So you can see within my profile here, I have a little profile picture. I have my handle, as they call it, or my username. Have my number of posts, number of followers, and the people I'm following, which we'll get into all that stuff here in just a minute. Below that, I have kind of my name, and then just kind of a little blurb about myself, kind of what I'm about. And then you can really add anything you want here. So I've linked my band's website there, so people can click that and go there. So really, you can be very creative with these little profiles and bios. But this is stuff that you'll see on my Instagram if you go and look at it. So
There's my daughter-in-law.
yes, that is my
Sorry.
wife. This is my wife, Crystal. But yeah, so these are photos that I've taken and I've posted on Instagram. So this is stuff that will show up, but not for me. So this is in my little profile. Now, the other part of Instagram over here, which is the kind of the home area, this is known as your feed. So this is where you're going to be able to see different posts from people that you follow, very, very different stuff depending on what you like. So, I mean, we all like food there. So, you know, I'm going to go ahead and like that because I'm really hungry right now. But that's basically, this is the feed. Now, when you're in Instagram, there's really the main part, which is what we're looking at now, which is your feed. This is how you're going to scroll, and you're going to see things that you like and photos that you like. And we're going to go, oh my gosh, I like that picture of these guys playing. So when you're looking at the feed, you're getting a lot of information about this post. So you're getting the person who posted it up here, getting the actual picture, and then you're getting a little blurb about it. So, you know, i.e. a little caption. For example, we can click on somebody and it'll actually take you to their profile, like what we were seeing on mine. So then I can actually follow this person and their stuff will then automatically show up in my feed more. So that's something that we'll get into in just a little bit as far as building your feed to your interests. But I figured, you know, we could take a look at, I wanted to show you guys what Evergreen Camera Club has been doing here. And this is what the Evergreen Camera Club's Instagram looks like. So this is the page. You know, we have a few followers now at this point, and that came built up from zero, and it's all organic followers. So this is within the span of, I don't know, maybe a month or two, a couple months at most. And it's quite amazing how quickly people will start to see your work when you start getting it out there. Which part of getting it out there is posting it properly, which we'll get into here in a second. One other thing that I wanted to kind of talk about here, and I'll stop sharing for now, is when you think of social media, you think of some pretty big questions in terms of like privacy, security, things like that. I just figured that it'd be a good idea to maybe touch on that a little bit, especially if we have any kind of first-time social media users out there. When you create an Instagram account, there's two options, really. You can create a public profile or a private profile. Private profile only lets people you allow to see your stuff. That's going to be the most secure way to do it. So friends and family will see your thing and they'll try and friend you or follow you, and you'll allow it. Whereas a public profile, anybody and their mother out there can look at your things and you'll show up in feeds and people can follow you even if you don't know them. So that's something to be aware of. There's not as much to talk about in the way of copyright laws when you get into stuff like photography and posting original photos. Not a lot of that happens on Instagram. I mean, if you have concerns about, privacy in terms of people taking or stealing original work, there's things you can do initially to protect that. You can watermark your photos and editing. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. If you have further questions though on copyright stuff with photos on Instagram, I would refer you to a copyright lawyer. I'm not one, but yeah. So I think the other thing to be more conscious of when you're dealing with social media is scams. Like anything else nowadays with online and all that, a part of Instagram that you can access, you don't have to, but it is just kind of a part, is that there's a messaging area. And this is something that can get people into a lot of trouble. You have notifications. So that's your little heart thing. This is your menus all over here. People will message other people on Instagram telling you to pay them money so they can promote your page or things of that nature. And basically, most 99% of that stuff is all scams. That's just, again, some basic stuff to be aware of when you're on social media in general. And then especially when you're dealing with art and Instagram and photography and all that stuff. So I just want to kind of pause for a second and see if anybody has any questions so far.
Can those photos that are on a page
Yeah.
Be downloaded off the page?
Great question. So no, there's not a way to like take this photo directly and download. Now, what you can do, what people can do is ultimately like you can screenshot things, right? So there's always ways for people to like take a photo off of a website, whether you do the right click and save and all that stuff. But to get like the full uncompressed photo downloaded, not really a thing. Now, I think ultimately though, when you're getting into downloading photos that you like, things like that, if you get to someone's page and you really, really like something, most of the time, best practice, especially if you don't know the people, you can message them directly or comment on the photo and ask if they'll send you a copy of it. People are usually very active on Instagram in terms of communicating back and forth. So yeah, that was a great question, Kathy. Thank you.
What makes it different from Facebook?
Yeah, that's another great question. So Facebook is more of a connection. It's more of a connecting social media site. So, you know, a lot of people use Facebook to talk to family members or to get updates. You know, with Facebook, you can post your status or like, you know, post what you're doing. Some people post, you know, where they are. They check in at like an event or at Elitch's or, you know, something like that. Whereas Instagram is more oriented towards posting content, i.e. like photos or videos, which you can do on Facebook. It's just when you get into Instagram, it's geared more towards the visually inclined in terms of artistic content. So that's another reason why I love Instagram over a lot of the other social media sites. I mean, all of them you find ridiculous stuff, and you can really go down some rabbit holes in any social media, but Instagram is primarily geared towards like artistic content. It's a great question, Anne. Thank you.
I've got an additional question. Why,
Yeah.
as photographers, would we want to do this?
Yeah, well, I think ultimately, you know, it depends. It depends on what you want to do. And if part of what you want to do is sharing your work and getting your work out there and putting it somewhere where friends and family can see it easily, you know, if you're trying to build a name for yourself in photography, really the uses are endless. Making other connections, you know, finding other photographers out there that share similar interests. That's something that obviously all of you within Evergreen Camera Club are doing here. So there's a even greater community of people on Instagram, just like yourselves, who are looking to put their content out there, get feedback on it. And some, you know, it's fun. I think, you know, ultimately having something to where you can kick back and relax for half an hour with a cup of wine or something and just kind of scroll through some cool photos is pretty amazing. And one of my favorite things that I use Instagram for is inspiration. Scrolling through my feed or my, you know, what pops up on my news feed, quote unquote, I'll get inspired, whether it's from photography or a video, things like that. So aside from just getting your own stuff out there, you get access to a very, very large number of people's artistic creativity and input as well.
How do you get access to them?
Yes.
That's what I don't understand.
Yes.
Like, if you make your page private, that doesn't work. You'd have to make your page public, right?
Great question. So that instance of private versus public only involves what people are allowed to see of your page. Let me show you something here. So I'm going to share my screen again. Now, what you can do, so basically, once you start an Instagram account, and it's pretty easy, and ultimately you go to Instagram.com or you download the mobile app, and right away it prompts you to create an account. And you'll create a username and a password like you normally would with anything else. And then you basically start building your feed. And what that means, and this is a great segue into what I wanted to talk about next, Kathy, so thank you. What you can do is you have this little search function here, and you also have this explore function. So on exploring, I can go through and it's going to just throw a bunch of stuff at me. It's going to throw videos, it's going to throw pictures, things like this, that think that the algorithm, if you will, of the program thinks that I'll like. And if I click on something, we got a little video here, and I say, wow, I really like that. Then ultimately, see, I'm going to move this little screen share thing out of the way. I can go in and I can see this and I can heart it, or I can like it, as they say. So this video has this many likes right now. It's quite a lot.
Who doesn't like a
wouldn't?
monkey
Who doesn't like a monkey, especially eating strawberries in a
and
shirt
wearing a dress?
or a dress? Yeah. So it comes down to, like, you get what you search for. So like I can go into search here and I can search for photography or photo shoot. And it's going to bring up all this different content that is related to that. And we'll get back to that. Like how, like, why would this picture be considered a photo shoot? Or, you know, why would this be considered this? So it just depends on what you want to see. And the more you like, so the more you heart on Instagram, the more the algorithm will actually build it into your newsfeed. So like if we search for photography, check this out. I mean, these are beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this is a post from a page called Geometry in Nature. And I really like this, so I'm going to like it. And then because I really like this, I can do one of two things. I can just click this and I'm going to follow this page. Or if I'm not quite sure I want to follow them, which basically if you follow them, it means all of their posts are going to show up in your feed. So remember that little home area. You can actually click on their profile. And that's going to link you to all of their posts. And you can go through and look at individual pictures and posts,
Jeez.
like them. You can comment on them. And then you're like, okay, I'm sold. I like this page. So I'm going to follow them. And now whenever Geometry in Nature makes a new post, it's going to show up in my news feed, which again, this is the news feed, as they call it. You'll hear news feed or feed, but basically, yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Ew.
Yeah,
No.
there's some raunchy stuff on there, but again, it's all based on, and again, I'm in a band and we do a lot of promotion on here. So some of the stuff you're seeing is related to my band. But ultimately, yeah, so that's how you would go in and get access to these other pages. So like once you've created an account, you're off to the races. So you've created an account like this, and now I'm going to go search and explore. And whenever I see things I like, I'm going to like them, or I'm going to go follow the page. And then ultimately, as I start to do that over time, my newsfeed will get automatically tailored to my interests. So that the algorithm will pick up on, you know, what I'm liking, what I'm following, and it will throw things at me that it thinks I'll like. It's not perfect by any means, but you just don't like those things that you don't like.
How do things get categorized? Like, is it because you tag a photo with a certain term?
Yes, exactly. So that brings me to my next piece here. You guys are great. This whole flow thing, you got it. So yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with searching and exploring, how do you get things to show up, right? That's a question that my mom had when we were building the Evergreen Camera Club feed. You know, how do we get people to pay attention? How do we show up when people search for photography? Well, let's take a look. So this is the photo that was taken by Dave Nelson. So this is the photo itself. And then here's our little blurb about it, right? So it's Dave Nelson, winter combined, as you can see. This here, these little hashtags, that is how you tag a post. So you hear all the kids nowadays, they go hashtag something, hashtag something. It started here, and it started with the hashtag symbol, or the pound sign, if you will. Ultimately, this tells the Instagram algorithm that this here is related to this photo, and this here is related to this photo. So ultimately, when you're posting something, so for example, if I go to create, like let's say I'm going to post something, I would select something from my computer. And this is how, you'll also post photos, is basically you have them on your hard drive on your computer. And then we're gonna, whoops. And basically you choose your content first. Not a good photo. It's a cell phone photo. I know I'm in a photography club right now, so don't make fun of me. It's a great face, by the way. So I have the photo selected, gonna hit next. It's gonna even give me options to add additional filters, which you pros don't need to worry about that, but you can. A lot of people that don't know a whole lot about editing in, Lightroom or things like that, these are amazing little presets. It's very useful. You can add a little bit of flair to your photos. And there's a lot of them. You can even make manual adjustments to brightness and contrast and all this stuff. But let's say we have it set how we want it, regardless of what it looks like here. We're just going to proceed. We're going to go to next. So next we have, I'm writing a caption. So you could just do me. But then come the hashtags. So we do hashtag music. Now you see how this is popping up down here? It knows that I'm trying to create a hashtag. It's showing me that there are currently 421 million and change of posts that are currently tagged with this. That's good. That means when people are searching that hashtag, it's popular. So I'm going to show up, or this photo is going to show up when people are searching for music. The more hashtags I add, the better. Slightly less. Here's live music photography. I even have a little list I can scroll through. So that's ultimately, that's how you get your photos to the greater public. And again, you don't even have to promote things. There are ways that you can actually pay Instagram to run your photos to a large populace. I do that with my band's Instagram. We basically run ads is what it is. So we show up in every so often on certain people's Instagram accounts. But yeah, so again, the hashtag is definitely going to get you to show up in these searches more. If you have a private profile, it is probably going to show up a little bit less out there, if not at all. I mean, if you don't want anybody to see your photos, it probably won't show up unless they're your friend. Now, leading into that, if your profile is private, basically when somebody goes to your page, they can see your page, but all they see is the name. And then they see a big lock that says this profile is private. And in order for them to see anything from your page other than your handle, is they have to request a follow. So they have to basically say, I want to follow you. And then you have to go in to your notifications and say, okay. And then only then are they able to actually access all of your content on your page. So yeah, it's yeah, go ahead.
Josh, what about, it's like you accept a friend and all of a sudden all these wackadoos from all over the place start showing up. I'm like, I don't even know these people,
Yes.
And I was like, where the heck did they come from?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I think ultimately that kind of comes back to security. There is an algorithm built into Instagram where it will not only show you, posts that you like and things like that, but it will also recommend you to mutual friends.
Oh,
So if you see here on the Evergreen Camera Club, it's going to show you, if you click on that, it's going to show you people that follow this. So now this is a little different because this is a public camera page, but like if I were on my private profile here, right? It's basically, if I accept a friend request from somebody, I am going to show up in that person's friends, like suggested friends.
yeah.
The good news is if you have your profile set to private, you might still get those friend requests, but you can just delete them. I mean, that's ultimately, it's part of, yeah, it's part of social media.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, somebody's cousin Ernie and then all of his
Right.
buddies.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
And that's really, and honestly, like, again, the more comfortable you get within the platform, the more you'll start to gauge, like you'll look at that person and see the mutual friends you have and go, okay, this is legitimate. It's the ones that you get that come out of left field where you're like, I have no idea who you are, where you're coming from, what your connection to me is. That's when you start to just go, nope, just delete.
Yeah.
I don't, if you're really somebody who I know or should know, you're going to try again. But yeah,
Well,
that's a great.
I come from the Nixon era where everything is being recorded, so it's just kind of like I really want to know who's out there.
For sure. Yeah.
But I'm
And
the older
definitely-
generation.
Josh,
Yes.
this really highlights a particular problem. I just yesterday went to try to look at Jody's Instagram and it was private. So I asked to follow her, but my handle on Instagram is Thorogol, which is a contraction of my name. She probably has no idea who Thorogol is, and she probably kicked me off. Is there a way to deal with that?
So, it's a great question. The answer is there's not one way to deal with it. There's multiple. If you like having a handle that's not your name, you can always put your name in your biography or in your little blurb about yourself on your page. That's one way to handle it. So when people get something from that, they go, who is that? And they go and they look at the page. One, they're gonna probably see your photos. So, if you have any pictures of yourself on there, they'll see that. But again, if you are looking here, like if I got a friend request from Jag8791, who is this guy? I have my name right here in kind of the bio section of my page. So then whoever got the friend request goes, oh, that's good old Josh. Okay, I'm gonna allow him. So that's a great question though. The other thing you can do is message. So again, with the messages online and social media in general, kind of the same rules go as they do with email. If you don't know the person, be cautious. There's a lot of scams out there, and this is definitely just something to be aware of. But you can shoot them a message and you can say, hey, this is so-and-so, I'd like to follow you. Now, the cool thing about messages is that if your profile is private, it will not let you, it'll let you send a message, but it shows up on that other person's side as a message request. So it says, this person's trying to message you, do you want to read their message? And you can either just nip it in the bud right there and say nope, or you can open the message, view it, and then decide if you want to allow them to follow you. So a few ways to address that there, but great question there, Tom.
Josh,
Yeah, can I add something? I would recommend putting your handle so it's clear who you are, because unless you want to be a mysterious person that's leaving messages and nobody knows who you are. But that's another really good rule of thumb is you shouldn't be that jerk, anonymously leaving messages. So mine is Tom Edwards Pottery, and it's done pretty well for me because it's me and it's, And I would strongly recommend that, because I literally have like friends and relatives that'll tell me, oh yeah, I follow you on Instagram. I go, oh, you're, whatever, Wackadoodle 13. I didn't know that, like I've seen your
Yes,
name for years and I had no idea that was you because you're not using your real name. So that's
exactly.
my 2 cents worth.
I think that's worth more than 2 cents. I think that's a great rule of thumb. I think ultimately, yeah, it's how visible you want to be out there, and especially if you have a private profile, probably not trying to do anything worth being invisible with. So that's a great call out.
Thanks.
I wanted to add one more thing onto this topic before I ask the question. So I recently received a note from someone on Instagram that was a spoof account of one of my friends who does not have an Instagram account, and they started asking probing questions. So using some common sense, just knowing that they would never ask a question like that, it's probably an imposter, so you want to be careful. There are some shady people out there trying to get
100%.
information. Yeah.
100%. And that's, great rule of thumb with Instagram and with any of the social media. If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right.
And the question I wanted to ask is, I guess this is around dimensions of images. I noticed that most of them appear square, even though you submit them in a landscape or portrait format, they do shrink down to be square. But when I look at some of my colleagues' photos, some of them are just as they uploaded them. And I'm not sure how to get mine to that standard format versus formatting to square. I uploaded some today and they just shrunk down to a 1-to-1 ratio. Do you have any suggestions on how to maintain that ratio?
It's a great question. So I'll preface this by saying I'm not an expert, not even very learned in the photography editing field or sector, if you will. But I will say ultimately, I think that doing a lot of editing prior to posting on Instagram is important. Like not letting the program crop it for you. Basically editing a version for Instagram is what I've had a lot of luck on. There's definitely probably a lot of other people out there that have probably more knowledge and better tips and tricks as far as that specific function goes. One thing though, and I might tap you, Mom, Tina, when you're going and you're posting on the Evergreen Camera Club, what is your process for that in terms of like cropping or editing those photos? What do you do?
Well, the easy part for me is they're already cropped, and the ones that I've put on there are to fit in the calendar. So they're already perfectly formatted to just go right into Instagram. But I have a photo that I wanted to put on my Instagram page that was long and skinny. And I found when I went into the editing part, you can specifically say the ratios. They had like 3 choices for the ratios, like 1-to-1, or I don't even remember what they were, 4-to-5, 6 to, I don't know what it was. But you can change the ratio and then post it. So you might try that, looking into the editing section. That's what I found anyway.
And keep in mind too, whatever editing you're doing before the photo gets to Instagram, if you're going to be doing additional editing in Instagram and changing the ratio there, that will have a completely unique effect as well. So that's a really, really good question, Brian. I'd honestly have to do a little bit more research on that. But I'm sure that there's a way. I mean, obviously there's people out there that use photography in a professional capacity that use Instagram, and they are posting like full-size landscape style portraits. So definitely something that I would look into a little bit further. But yeah, I mean, as Tina said, I think that there's some additional settings within the posting function itself help with the ratio, but
I
that's
think
kind of where, yeah,
I think it depends on where you're posting from. If you use your cell phone, I think that it's got a little more flexibility, your
correct.
smartphone versus the desktop, because I just uploaded one on my account up from my desktop and it didn't give me any options on
Yeah.
scaling.
Huh.
And that's a good point, which brings me kind of back to what I said earlier. There are some differences, certainly, between the mobile app version and the actual like website version. The app in general and the Instagram in general was intended to be a mobile application. So I think that you probably do have a bit more flexibility within the mobile app version. Unfortunately, I wanted to see if I could kind of share my mobile app version, but that would get a little complicated. But yeah, I think that that's something also to play around with, you know, same login credentials as you would on the computer versus the app. So yeah, you know, I would say a lot of people, and you know, Tina, my mother included, has found that sometimes just moving through the mobile app is even a little bit more intuitive than the website. And I agree. I think sometimes the website gets a little funky. So I encourage people to, especially if you have a smartphone, if you're comfortable using it, download the app, play around, you know, start at a private account. You're not going to break anything. That's an important part there. Yeah. But yeah, that's, I think when it comes down to it, social media in general can be very daunting, and it can be intimidating, and it's this big, wide open, scary world out there online. And you do have to take precautions. You just have to, you know, remember to, you know, just common sense. And everything else is just playing around, and it's fun. You know, it's, you get to go and you build your feed, and now you're seeing photos from people all over the world, and
Yeah.
you're getting inspired, and you're posting your pictures. And as you follow people, they follow back. And one day you turn around and you have 300 followers or more. But at the end of the day, like, I think people get it sucked into, I think that's one of the you know, the negative connotations of social media, is you get drawn into this world of, you know, how can I get more likes? How can I get more followers? And that can be stressful. And that's not really what it's about. It's about enjoying yourself and using it as a tool to inspire and to get your work out there.
Well, Josh, could you give us just, I know, I don't know how we can do this, but just a little tutorial on how to build one if people would like to start their own Instagram page?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's very simple. And I'll kind of, I'll show you through the website. It's much easier, I think, to do it through the mobile app. Again, you know, you can download, it's a free app. You just download, see, they even have it right on their website there. But ultimately, you go to Instagram.com, or you open up the mobile app, and you have this section right here where you hit sign up. You can log in with Facebook, which is another thing. If you have Facebook, you can actually link Instagram and Facebook. So when you post something on one, it gets posted on the other automatically. That's kind of fun, you know, if you want continuity between all your social media accounts. But basically, you can put in mobile phone number or your email and your name, and then you create a username and a password. So I don't know that it'll let me do this since I already have one, but let's give it a try. So let's just say that that's my last name. And basically you create a username, you know, that's unique, or you can just use, like we were talking about before, you can use your full name. And then you'll create a password. and then you'll click sign up. Now you'll notice here how this has an X. So usernames can only use letters. I have a space there. That's what it was. Username's not available. So let's throw a 1 in there. Not available. Let's throw a 2 after the 1. So
Oh,
this is what I was worried about. Now that's okay. I mean, ultimately, what happens after this? And this is kind of the first piece, right? You create your credentials. Once you have your credentials, it's basically going to ask you what types of things you're into. And it's really as simple as that. Ultimately, you're going to get things where it'll say like sports or photography, very broad categories. And that's just kind of getting you started. Among other things like picking whether it's a private versus public profile, which by the way, you can always adjust that and change that later in your account settings. So one last thing I'll show you here. I know we're probably running out of time, I think, right? We have until 8, is that right?
I think that's right.
Okay. So basically, when you're logged in to Instagram, you have a settings page, which that is going to be kind of where you edit most of your stuff. And ultimately, you can make a lot of changes there. And within the website, it's pretty easy to navigate to. On the mobile app, it's a little bit different, but you'll notice that there's always like this little more section kind of off on the side somewhere. And you have settings, you have save, so you can actually save posts that you like. Like if you like this, remember that one place that we followed? They're showing up in my feed now. So they're showing this mushroom giving off spores, which is pretty cool to see. So like I could save this post, and this is where I would go to look at all my saved posts. You can change the appearance. I like the night, but you can change it to light as well. This is just easier on my eyes. You can see your activity. So you can see what photos you've liked. Like those are the photos that we liked, things like that. But ultimately, this is your settings. This is where you can change things. This is where you can edit your handle or your username. You can edit your bio, all of this fun stuff. So again, it's really about going in and just doing. You know, I was talking at the beginning of this session about it's kind of like photography in general. You can sit and learn about it all day in a classroom, but at the end of the day, you got to go out and you got to get your hands dirty. You got to get the lens on. You got to take pictures. And same goes with social media, but especially Instagram. You know, go create a test account for yourself. Go play through it. And ultimately, before we end here, I want to give everybody here in the group my email. And if anybody has questions that we don't get to before the end of the session here, please feel free to email me. I'm always happy to answer questions or anything like that. So I'll go ahead and give that to you now. You've been seeing it. It's my handle. It's jag8791@gmail.com. So jag8791@gmail.com. So feel free. If we didn't answer all your questions, I'm around most of the time. So I'm happy to reply.
So
But yeah.
if I want to share my photography, but I've also got another couple of hobbies that I want to share with people, would you recommend that I do a business account for my photography and do a personal account for everything else? Or do you just control things through a personal account with hashtags?
It's a great question. I think ultimately you can like for photo, it depends on what your aim is. Like if you have your photography account that you're just kind of keeping separate and you want to get that stuff out there, but then you have like your other stuff where it's just kind of like family and other hobbies that you do, or you want to post the fun weekend that you had or whatever. If you choose to separate those, you can do it a couple ways. I think you can definitely manage it with having both personal profiles, and just again managing it with hashtags, just like you said. The problem, not really problem, but be aware. So if you create a business profile, there's certain things that you can and can't post. So like if you're a business profile and you post something that has something else that's trademarked in it, like a picture or a sign, like the algorithm will pick up on that and kind of tell you like, hey, is this branded content? You got to go through a lot of this stuff. So there's advantages to having the business or professional profile. That's where you can actually run ads. So like for my band, we run targeted advertisements for like show promotions to specific demographics. And you can change the amounts of money that you spend on it. Spend like $10. And they basically guarantee that your post is going to show up in 2,000 people's different news feeds. So that would be the advantage of doing like a business profile versus a personal, because I don't think you can do that on personal. Does that answer your question there, Lori?
Yeah, it does. I realized that I have an old account called Serious Images. It may be a personal account, but I wondered where I would be posting my stuff about dog shows and other hobbies that I have. So
yeah,
it sounds like I can have two personal accounts.
Yes, you may run into what I just did though. You may have to have a secondary email. I think, or use your phone number, because you can use phone number versus email. But just be aware of that. But yeah, you can have multiple handles, definitely.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Well, I think we're running up on time here, so I wanted to thank everybody for listening to me jabber up here for a while. And yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to ask more questions, like I said, you have my email. I think Tom put it in the chat there. So happy to kind of talk everything from the 50,000 foot view all the way down to very specific stuff. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Josh, that was excellent. We really appreciate your coming on and sharing that with us. And it is 8:03. We normally run a little bit late. So if folks have more questions, I would say, if it's okay with you, let's continue the conversation as long as people still have questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm here.
On the other hand, if nobody has any more questions.
That's okay. It just means we were really thorough, right?
Can I delete my account if I decide I don't want to be on it?
Yes, great question, Dick. Yeah, so you can completely remove your Instagram profile. That will kind of wipe everything. So there's some social media sites out there that you can't do that with. You can ultimately, it's just harder. But yeah, you can basically go in and just say, I want to blow out my profile completely. So easily done.
Josh, on your homepage, if you go to your homepage,
yeah,
you have all these circles across the top. I've never quite figured out what those are.
Yes, let's take a look. So the other aspect of Instagram, other than pictures, is videos, much like the one we're seeing here. You can create something called a story. So you have a story, and basically it is videos, little short videos that you can splice together to show your experience, whether it's your whole day or a few other things. Let's take a look at geometry and nature. These up here, I believe these are what you're talking about. these are
Right.
different pages that I follow, people and pages. Then these are their stories. So it's not going to link me directly to their page. But when you post something, you can post a photo, a video, or you can post a story, which can be a combination of the two. So let's look at this guy. This is my cousin, Adam. So this is his story. So see these lines up here? Boop, it's going to change. So it's going to play all of these kind of like a slideshow, and he can add, you know, text to it, things like this. You know, you can add little posts from jokes. But yeah, ultimately, that's what these little circles are. So like they're stories from pages you follow. So like the one that we just followed, Geometry and Nature, they posted a story 4 hours ago, which is this little cutie there. And then it's gonna go back and it'll kind of just run through stories. So if you ever just want to sit there and like look at content, kind of scroll in front of your eyes, you can just start watching stories, and it's all stories related to people you follow and pages you follow.
Yeah, another thing to note is that they only are up for 24 hours too, right? The
Yes,
stories. Yeah,
exactly.
So sort of an
Yes,
art to it, to keeping
exactly.
your story alive by posting every day.
Exactly. And that's, yeah, stories are temporary. Whereas when you go on and post a photo or something, that's on your page until you decide to delete it. But that story is just going to run for one day. And then you can come back to that same page the next day and they won't have a story unless they posted a new one.
Huh.
I've
Yeah.
got a question about the whole idea of using reels, because for people like myself that are trying to promote my work, the reels and videos get so much more attention in the algorithm than photos do. And for
Yes.
photographers, and I just like posting pictures of my pots. I'm not a filmmaker, and I can do funny videos, but I don't like the process of making a video is too much work, or it's
Yeah,
just not.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear
So
you.
what do you suggest about that? Because I honestly feel like I should make a push to start making more videos, because I need
Yeah,
more viewers. Yeah.
it's a great question. I think ultimately, you know, you can be very, very creative with video content. The key is getting tied into what is trending in the reels. And you do that by just watching the reels, ultimately. You start to notice there's this song that's showing up in a lot of different reels.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And it's so annoying because you'll hear the same stupid song noise. You're like, oh,
50
everybody
times.
is, and they're all using oh, I didn't know that. They're all using that same song just to get in the algorithm.
Exactly. So it's really
Wow.
down to audio. And really what it comes to is like, you can make the video whatever you want. It can be even just a slideshow of some of the pictures of your pots. And then if you put like that weird song that's super popular that
Right.
week, then you're going to show up more in the algorithms.
God, it just makes us all become prostitutes, doesn't it? I mean,
It
we just start performing for what the
yeah.
algorithm wants us to do.
Yes.
That's very disappointing.
And that's where, again, you know, you can really, you get into the quest for followers and the quest for likes, and it's a noble one.
Oh yeah,
But
no, then I admire the people that do really well with it. There's
yeah,
artists. I actually went to an entire lecture from this guy that is just rocking it with his ceramics, and he's really good. I mean, he does it right. He's got good product and all that. Then I look at other dumb stuff, you know, a girl in a black tank top throwing a lousy pot with a dumb song,
yeah,
and it's got tons of viewers. You know,
exactly. And it's really, it comes down to that audio, you know. And if you ever go on and you actually look at the bottom of the reel and you click on the audio, it's going to take you to all the other reels that are using the audio.
oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep.
So,
So
so
that's,
my
yeah.
esoteric, 70s rock song that I think is really cool is gonna kill me when I should be doing the Taylor Swift song or whatever. Got it.
Unless you start something crazy, you know, I mean, you could post a
Right.
reel that goes viral with like, you know, a lot of kids nowadays don't know some of that music. So they might be hearing it for the first time and you could
Right,
start a
right.
trend. But yeah, so like,
Yeah, Yeah, I think just do what you think is fun, because it's not like I
Yes.
have desperately trying to sell my work and make her,
Right.
pay the rent or something, but
Yes.
it's just annoying. I
Yeah.
need to vent. That's why I'm here, just to vent.
I get that for sure.
So
I'm the same
Josh,
way.
does it kind of do a Shazam thing as far as the audio goes and figure out what the source of the audio content is?
No, not necessarily. So people will actually select audio for their videos. So they'll go in and pick a song, or pick this specific audio that somebody recorded that's out there for people to use. It will also pick up just original audio. So like if you look at the audio at the bottom of a reel, it'll either say the name of the song or whatever, or it'll just say original audio. And that's just going to be like what's happening with the actual audio in the video. However, if you have a commercial account, that's one of the things with a commercial account, or a business account. If you put a reel out there that's using a copyrighted song outside of the algorithm that you just hear, like you have playing in the background, it'll pick that out. So it kind of does a Shazam thing in that way. And it'll tell you like, hey, that content is copyrighted. Like,
And
you
it'll
can't
take it
really
off.
do
It
that.
actually takes it off. I've had that happen where I've been
Yeah.
playing something and I get busted, basically.
Yeah.
Me.
Yep.
For copyright. Pretty funny, huh?
Yes. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things to be aware of with the commercial accounts or business accounts for sure.
Yeah. I think the trick is to actually just make stuff that you think is fun, and hopefully that translates, or eventually you build a following. That's sort of all the couple of things that I've went, the workshops I've looked at. They basically say just share yourself and hopefully that'll work, and I think that's
Exactly.
yeah.
That's the key. It's when it stops being fun, it stops having a point, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I did find the button to put a full landscape image out there. They're little
Nice.
brackets just to expand. So you can do
Yes.
portrait or landscape. So it's on the desktop client as well. On the website.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yes. That's awesome. Thank you for that, Brian. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually make note of that.
Yeah.
Where did you find it?
It's on the bottom left-hand side when you click create and you upload
Share
a
your
photo.
screen. Show us.
Okay. Let me go ahead and back up here. Before I do that. All right. So here's my screen. You just click select from computers. So I'm going to upload this photo. And there's this little bracket here. I went for 16 by 9 and click next.
There we go.
There it is.
Yep.
Yep.
Never
There
would
you
have
go.
found that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the thing I've noticed with a lot of the desktop Instagram website is there's like their menus, they're always very small and they're almost like you can see through them. They almost become a part of the landscape of the setup of the website. So you have to really be cognizant of exactly that, just those little corner menus, the little X's in the top right-hand corner of things. That's great, Brian. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm in the IT industry as well, and there's not a button I won't click on here. I just start clicking everything to see what it would do. You're not going to break it.
What size photographs do you upload, or what are the sizes of them?
2048 on the long edge.
Okay.
So that's the same for Facebook as well. That's the maximum resolution you can upload.
Is there any point in uploading that resolution? Because you can't ever see them displayed at that.
Depends on who's looking at it on what size monitor.
I have a big monitor and it shrinks everything down.
Is it a 4K monitor?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think natively the application is going to downsize it to 2048 on the long edge, regardless of what if you go over that, it's going to shrink it down. If you do 1024 on the long edge, it's going to be small.
On Facebook, though, Brian, you can definitely right click and save the image, correct?
Yes, you can download it. On Instagram, it's a little harder to do, but it can be done.
So I guess my question is, why would you post that big on Facebook too?
I do.
So anybody can download your photo at
I've
that
got-
resolution?
Yeah, I've had people take my photos, but what are they going to do with it? I mean, I've got metadata in it. I can find it. You can find it in Google.
Well, I know you
And
can do a reverse search, but
Sure.
You could also, I've had, a lot of the stuff we do with band photography gets watermarked. Watermarking is a great practice because they can take the photo, but they have to do a lot of work to get that watermark completely out of there. And also, I mean, if there's any question of who originally had the photo, keep in mind, all your posts have date and timestamps and so forth as well.
right.
I mean, I've had to do cease and desist orders before with somebody who actually cropped out my logo. And
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a postage stamp by the time they got done with it. But I actually met them face to face at an event and said, please stop.
Yeah, you
We'll
have
go the
to. I
next
mean,
level. Yep.
it still happens out there, and that's where, if you get into that realm, knowing your rights and knowing what you can do is important. So having a resource there is good.
All right, well, I think that's about all the questions we've had for the evening, and there's quite a bit of interest. You had a good audience for this, Josh, and I think you did a really great job of presenting it, and want to thank you very much for coming and talking to us tonight.
Of course, anytime. Thank you, everybody, and your great audience, great questions. And again, you have my email in the chat if we missed anything. But yeah, always happy to help.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. That was very good.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank
all.
Of course.
Nice.
Very
meeting you
Thanks,
all.
everybody, for coming.
Good evening.
Love you.
Love you too, Mom.